Alright guys, part 2 of Vladimir's fight for survival. No, but yeah, the job went well. I survived. In fact, I'd say more than survived, I probably shined. And yes, by the way, to deviate slightly, there are all these grammatical rules about shown when alone. Do you know the rule? Because obviously the verb shine has two past tenses, right? Shined and shown. And technically I think it's supposed to be you shined an object, like I shine my shoes, I shine the light, but a heavenly body shone. In this case, however, I prefer to say I shined, and I think both works. But anyway, whatever. So how was I able to rise up to the occasion and shine? About preparation. Back to preparation, then I'll tell you about the job. Yeah. So remember I said I had a hunch that this simultaneous equipment dude would actually not fall, it would fall through or fall off. Instead of following through, he fell through. So my hunch was correct. So trust your hunches. But what I did was find another 3 options. I wrote them all, and 2 of them were viable, and one of them was especially good because it turned out to be not just an equipment renter, but an actual living and breathing blue true interpreter. And we're a very helpful breed of cat or whatever. And he actually came to the venue at like 9 o'clock at night 2 days before. We checked the equipment, or the day before. We checked the equipment. Everything was hunky-dory. He came today. He did not have to do this, but he actually handed out the equipment, then collected the equipment, so he did a lot more, and it worked just fine. So that was part of my preparation, non-linguistic, but nonetheless. I practiced the clip that I was practicing on, which was a half-hour, 35-minute clip about music and teaching music. Just did shadowing, but mostly, like 99% simultaneous, looking up words as I go. So I couldn't really find a quote-unquote word list, so instead of just finding a word list, I would stop the clip when I really wanted to look up a word. And that was fine. And then I read an article in Spanish about this lady, Maria Struve, that a colleague of mine translated a while ago. And I just read this article, picking up any particular words that I needed to pick up. And then last night I was basically done, because I knew that I did my due diligence, and I knew that that was that. If there was anything else, it was outside of my control. Actually, no, I also talked to a very experienced colleague of mine, who he and I, are on par. We have similar experience, but he's more experienced with equipment. So I asked him all kinds of questions about like interference and what could interfere, and whether or not 100 pieces of portable simultaneous equipment would work. And he assured me basically that all was fine. I just double-checked this other interpreter. Not that I didn't trust him, I did, but just in case, I ran it by my colleague. Let's see, on the day of, I'm not going to tell you the whole day because I met my guest of honor at the airport and so on. And then all of a sudden it also turned out that basically we had another interview like 1 hour before, or 1.5 hours before, and I was a little nervous because the main event was the masterclass. And yes, we arranged the other event, but basically when the interviewer got there, I sort of like mildly suggested and got her to agree that we should do it another day, because with all the equipment coordination and so on and so forth, it just wasn't going to be feasible. And what I mean by equipment coordination is I'm not used to radio interviews or TV interviews in like homemade settings. So I was trying to figure out, should we do consecutive? Should we do simultaneous both ways? One way, but I can't switch channels on my equipment, so I knew it was going to go long and late, and I just basically suggested doing it another day. We did a technical run through, we did like a 20-minute mini interview, and then just got to the venue. And we got there early, which I much prefer, and it was fine. So yeah, I won't bore you with all the details, but then we started. It was a beautiful event with music, songs at the beginning, and then just basically I jumped in. And a lot of people are going to kill me for this and say that I am breaking the standards of the profession, but it was 2.5 hours of non-stop, continuous, simultaneous Russian into Spanish. And I'll confess, I've only done Russian to Spanish, I don't know, maybe just a few times in my life, because that's just not a common combination, especially, in the US. Yeah, in the US you have English Spanish and Russian English. But anywho, as one of my friends says, I survived, but I did make preparation, so it's not like I was stuck with 2.5 hours simultaneous. And by the way, to people who will say you're doing the wrong thing, you're breaking the standards, I will say don't judge a winner, because I was a winner. If I had felt that I was following through, that I was completely mentally meandering, that I was in a mental fog, I would have stopped and taken a break. And in fact, I agreed with my friend Katya, who's not a professional interpreter but very smart, that if I really needed a 5 or 10 minute break, she would just pick it up consecutively. And Maria, the speaker, was also willing to take a break, but I asked her honestly, is it better with a break or without it? She said, of course, without, because it doesn't break the flow of the seminar. So we just went on without a break. I could have taken it, but I felt like I didn't really need it. Was I tired? I was damn tired. By the end, I was like physically exhausted, completely tired, but not in a mental fog. I could function. So that's why I continued. But I was very happy when we were done. Anyway, that's the long and short of it. So what can I say? To recap, basically study the words, look up the words, prepare the translations of any words. There was nothing tonight that caught me off guard, not in Russian, not in Spanish. I did forget a couple technical terms about cars when she was giving analogies of how the human voice is akin to a car. Okay, I did forget a couple terms, but it wasn't crucial, But yeah, study your words, create a word list, practice on the topic of, read up on the topic of, especially the same speaker. If you can, practice with the same speaker. And I had practiced before with this gal, like I had done simultaneous into English, and today was my practice interview with her, all right, because I had this TV interview 1 hour, 1.5 hours before, so even though it was consecutive, it still sort of, got my interpreting muscles going. So yeah, I hope this was useful. Go on and rise up to the occasion and shine, and naturally keep following the channel, share it, subscribe, all the jazz. If you need my help as a trainer, as a consultant, as an interpreter, as a translator, I'm here for you. All right, ciao.